at today's Tax Talk. Now, we're right before the moratorium ends, and I think this is going to be the last one. This is the last time it's ending. I know they've told us this before, but that's what we're going to talk about today. So join us, won't you? Yep. So today we're going to talk about it's a foreclosure. I like to say it's the last time we're going to talk about foreclosures, but probably not. But the moratorium is coming to an end, July 31st. I've been warning people about this. I've been singing from the rooftops about what you can do. That we talked about it some weeks ago about the Bureau when they were going to come out with some rule that's going to put a blanket moratorium, say no more foreclosures until the end of the year for these government-backed mortgages. Now, most mortgages are government-backed. Not all mortgages are, but some are. I had a client today who had one from the tollway, so it's not covered. The moratorium doesn't cover that. But most of us have loans that are backed by the government, and so they have a lot of say in what goes on about the foreclosures. But instead of the blanket prohibition on going forward with foreclosure until 2022, they said, okay, some can go forward, but there's ways that you can stop it from going forward. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do you stop it from going forward if you're having some problems? And there are some avenues for that. So let's talk about that. Okay, so the first story I want to talk about, pandemic-related home foreclosures didn't spike as expected, but that could change. Now, again, for many months, since the beginning of when they started going into these forbearance agreements, first it was 3 months, then it was 6 months. Now many of them are 18 months. There's some numbers in here. We're going to talk about those numbers, about what it was and where they are today. And the numbers falling. But what a forbearance is that I'm not paying for some months. And at the end of the forbearance time, they want the whole amount of money up front. Well, if it's 3 months, that's probably, I might be able to do that. But 18 months, even if I have a $2,000 mortgage, that's $36,000. If you're having some trouble, now some people are paying it. They just took the forbearance just in case, and they've been saving the money, and it's time the forbearance is over, and they make the payment and they go on with their life. But many of us can't. Many homeowners can't do that. And so then what happens? Then what do you do? And the point about this is they're trying to stop the foreclosure spike. They've really taken a lot of action because it's not good for anybody. It's not good for the mortgage companies. It's not good for the homeowners. It's not good for the neighborhoods. It's just not good. And the prices start falling because there's too many people out there, and then that collapses the economy. And so they've taken some good action now to try to stop that from happening. And so I don't know if the foreclosure spike is going to happen, but it's going to be nowhere what it would have been if we didn't have this experience from 2008 going forward, right? They learned a lot from that time. And unfortunately, 2008 wasn't that long ago. Right. And so, that was the first time that's happened. Now we're going to take action to stop it from happening again, because at least they learned some lessons. Right. So bankers and realtors predicted the pandemic related closures and layoffs that began in the spring of 2020 would sharply boost home foreclosures and mortgage delinquencies. But that hasn't happened yet. Now, as I mentioned, in most states, they're at an all-time low. Foreclosures are at an all-time low. Well, that's also because of the moratorium. They wouldn't let them file any cases. So if you don't let people file cases, then it should be at an all-time low, right? They're not letting you file them. So that makes sense. So federal and state pandemic aid, including unemployment bonus payments, stimulus checks, foreclosure moratoriums, and delayed mortgage payments all help keep delinquencies and foreclosures low, lenders and realtors say. and attorneys. At the same time, this is a Maine article. Maine real estate sales and prices have continued their steep rise across most of the state, offering another safety net for the troubled homeowners. Well, that's happening here in Illinois too, right? The prices are going up. There's not a lot of inventory out there. Well, if they foreclose on everybody, then there will be a lot of inventory. But even if that were to happen, that's going to be at least another year away. In Illinois, it takes about a year for them to go through foreclosure. And they have the moratorium is just opening up now. So then they'd have to file the foreclosure case and then go forward in court. And that's going to take about a year. And then it would take longer than that to put that on the market. Right. So even if they did a rash of foreclosures now, that is not going to affect the inventory available for home sales until next year at least. So that shouldn't affect anything. So the market still should be strong for at least the next year. Now, I was on David Hochberg's Home Sweet Home Chicago radio show last Saturday, and the realtors and David and many people calling out agree that we're probably looking at another 2 years of a strong market. And that means price is probably going up still. So if you're thinking about selling, now's the time to sell. But maybe you can put it off for a little while and sell. It's nice to a bird in the hand, right? But two upcoming milestones will determine whether the aid and how the housing market can help struggling homeowners stay in their home. The state and federal foreclosures moratorium expires on July 31st. We know that. And the last of the forbearances and delayed loan payments will end around September. And that would be the 18 months, right? That they gave 18 months on these forbearance agreements. He expects a little higher default rate. Now, here it is. Nationally, 1.7 million homeowners are still in the forbearance and down from 4.3 million last summer. Actually, I think it was the higher numbers would probably a little higher than that. So here's another story. Biden administration announces mortgage relief as foreclosure moratoriums come to an end. Now, this is what I was talking about. They were talking about putting a blanket moratorium on, but they didn't. But there's still ways to get on the moratorium, and they're also pressuring these mortgage companies to do loan modifications. So in just a few days, the national moratorium on residential evictions and foreclosures are set to expire. With this deadline fast approaching, the Biden administration announced a new mortgage plan. So let's talk. I went into the new mortgage. Here's the fact sheet, Biden administration. I'll skip all of this propaganda that they give us at the beginning about how great things are and how great our president is, El Presidente, how great he is. But let's skip down. With over 160 million Americans fully vaccinated, well, that's propaganda. However, many homeowners will need deeper assistance due to pandemic-related income loss. So let me go back here, though. Okay, so for homeowners who can resume their pre-pandemic monthly payments, mortgage payments, and where agencies have the authority, agencies will continue requiring mortgage servicers to offer options that allow borrowers to move missed mortgage payments to the end of the mortgage at no additional cost to the borrowers. Now, if I was off work for some time because of COVID, and now I'm back to work. But all that money that I'm behind, they call them arrears whenever I'm behind in my mortgage payments. Whatever I'm behind, this is defined as an arrear. And if all those arrears, I can't pay those arrears. I can pay my monthly, I'm back to work, so I can pay my monthly mortgage payment. But all those months that I missed, I can't pay it. Now what do I do? See, this is what Chapter 13 used to be. But even that, at 18, I'd have to pay that. Again, if it's $2,000 a month for 18 months, that's $36,000. Now I got to hire a lawyer, and I got to do it in Chapter 13, and I got to pay that $36,000 back. If I could do it in 3 years, that's $1,000 a month. So now my mortgage payment for the next 3 years is going to be $3,000. Well, most people couldn't do that. Otherwise, they'd have a bigger home to begin with. However, many homeowners will need deeper assistance due to pandemic-related income loss. For example, due to the economic crisis caused by the pandemic, some homeowners are earning less than they were before. Homeowners with government-backed mortgages that have been negatively impacted by a pandemic will now receive enhanced assistance. especially if you're looking for work, retraining, having trouble catching up in back taxes and insurance, or are continuing to experience a hardship for another reason. The new steps from HUD, Department of Agriculture, they own a lot of mortgages, and Department of Veterans Affairs are announcing will aim to provide homeowners with a roughly 25% reduction in borrowers' monthly principal and interest payments to ensure that they can afford to remain in their homes and build equity long term. This brings options for homeowners with mortgages backed by this alphabet soup closer in alignment with options for homeowners with mortgages backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So these are where most mortgages, home mortgages, are in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're backed by, and the government has already implemented some of these services. So home modification options. So we can skip through this. The HUD, the recovery standalone partial claim for homeowners who can resume their payments. HUD will provide borrowers with an option to continue these payments by offering a zero interest subordinate lien, also known as a partial claim, that is repaid when the mortgage insures. So we always call this a non-interest bearing account. So they take what you're behind, they put it in a non-interest bearing account, and then they rework your mortgage based on the principal and interest. This amount that I'm behind, in many cases, most of that's interest. And so they're going to take that and they're going to put it into this non-interest bearing account. It doesn't go away. You still owe that money, but they're not going to rework the mortgage amortization schedule with that number in. And what does that mean? That means I'll have a lower payment every month. Now, it also means that when I get back to the end of this, if it's a 30-year mortgage or a 40-year mortgage, once I pay it off, I still owe that money. So if it was $36,000, as in my examples, then I'm going to finish paying my mortgage in 30 years. I'm still going to owe $36,000. Most people nowadays don't go to the end of the mortgage, so they're going to try to refinance. So when I refinance, I'm going to have to pay whatever that is plus that $36,000. Okay, in my example. The COVID recovery modification for homeowners who cannot resume making their current monthly payments. The COVID recovery max extends the term of the mortgage to 360 months at market rate and targets reducing the borrower's monthly principal and interest portion of their monthly mortgage payment by 25%. This will achieve significant payment reduction for many struggling homeowners by extending the term of their mortgage at a low interest rate combined with partial claim if partial claims are available. Many times, I've told many of my clients, a lot of times this means I'm never really going to own that house and I'm never really going to get equity out of that house. I'm going to pay and I'm going to pay and I'm going to pay. And when it's time to sell it, I'm not going to be able to get any money out of it. Now, again, if the values keep going up, maybe it will cover this. But if they don't go up for the next 20 years, 30 years, well, then I'm probably never going to. Now, again, if I stay in my house for 20 or 30 years, I'm going to pay down that loan, and I'm going to be able to. I'm probably going to get some money on it. But if in the short term, I'm not going to get any money out of this house. Most people stay in their house in less than 10 years, and so if it's less than 10 years, then you probably won't get any money out. And then when you try to sell, you might have to do a short sale even 10 years from now. Now, not always. We'll see what happens. The USDA has the same program. The VA has that same program. The Federal Housing Authority has the same program. In addition to these new opportunities for borrowers, agencies across the federal government are also taking other steps to support borrowers as our economic and recovery continues. Homeowners Assistance Fund. The Homeowners Assistance Fund, a critical component of propaganda. These funds can be used for assistance with mortgage payments, so they could give you a stipend or a advance, extended term option. So we talked a lot of times what they're doing is they're making the mortgage a 40-year mortgage. And again, this is a way, in the end, I'm paying a lot more interest. But my mortgage, a lot of people are just concerned about what their monthly payment is. Well, a 40-month mortgage would make my monthly payment less than a 30-year mortgage. But if I added all the interest up, I'm paying a lot more in interest, even at a low interest rate. I'm paying a lot more in interest. So homeowners can visit consumerfinance.gov/housing. Borrowers can contact their servicer or housing counselor as soon as possible to learn more about this option. So this is what I've been encouraging people to do, right? I encourage you, what you should do, contact your mortgage company. See if put it in writing and ask for a loan modification in writing. Don't leave it up to just calling, because if you just call, they might say that you didn't follow the procedure. So if you're facing foreclosure, okay, if you're behind, now the good part is, right, maybe I'm still in a forbearance agreement. Ride the forbearance agreement out, but don't wait till it's over before you start asking for a loan modification, right? So always mention the COVID-related hardship, because that's what they're looking for. The federal government has provided monies for COVID-related hardships. If I don't have a COVID-related hardship, it becomes more difficult. So always make sure you rely on the COVID-related hardships, and most of us have them. I'd say all of us have had a COVID-related hardship, whether it's financial or otherwise. But this is what we're looking at. Tomorrow, the loan forbearance moratorium is over, and there's a 30-day buffer in there. But in these days, if you're behind in your mortgage, put it in writing. Ask the mortgage company to consider a loan modification. Under the rules, if you ask for a loan modification, they can't go forward with foreclosure, because they have to attest under penalty of perjury that you have not asked them. So if you have asked them, and then if they have denied you, ask again. Put it in appeal. Usually you'll see on any denial, they'll say you have a right to appeal. Appeal it. And then if they deny you again, appeal that too. Okay, so I've seen people appeal, and then get the loan modification. So I always tell people, as long as you're in your home, anything can happen. There could be more new programs. There could be anything can happen. So fight to stay in your home. That's the most important thing. Fight to stay in your home. That's what I would do. That's my advice to you. And if I can help you, I'd be happy to help you. Give me a call, 312-664-6649. Again, it's 312-664-6649. Now, as you know, I help people with IRS problems, but I also help people with mortgage foreclosure. But so IRS is, big problem for a lot of people. I get it. And we help people with fight the IRS. We help business professionals solve IRS problems forever. That's right, forever. And that's what people are looking for. You don't want to kick the can down the road. Most of the time when you come up with an agreement with the IRS, you're not solving the problem forever. So that's what we help. We help people solve the problem forever. And that's what you want. So if you're having problems with the IRS, get a copy of my book. Deal with your IRS problem today. Go to freeirsbook.com, get a copy of my book. We ask you to pay a small shipping and handling fee, but otherwise the book is free. And then I also throw in some reports and some other things that it's well worth the shipping costs. But you get the book for free. So again, thanks so much for joining us here today. I appreciate you taking the time. Remember, it's not too late. As long as you're in your home, anything can happen. So let's make it happen, because that's on you. Make it happen. Thanks so much for joining us.